How's it going, guys? Cdew here, and today I'm coming to you with another skill cap video. We are going to be reacting to the recent changes, as well as the solo shuffle tier list that skill cap is putting out this week. And I think I got a couple hot takes here, so I'm kind of curious if you guys agree or disagree with me. So, for the melee, we have Demon Hunter, Warrior, Feral, Windwalker, and Ret in the S tier. For the A tier, we have Assassin, Sub, Survival, and Fury. On the B tier, we have Unholy, Frost, Outlaw, and on the C tier, we have the Enhancement Shaman. So I think most of this, according to how often I play Shuffle and what I see and what I feel like feels strong, is pretty accurate. What I like to kind of do is think about, if I'm paired with these classes, how much do I enjoy playing with them, and then how much do I enjoy playing against them. And I think it's pretty obvious that Enhanced being on its own tier of C is absolutely correct. It lacks Immortal Strike. They need very specific lobbies. Strangely enough, though, at least at the higher ratings, I don't mind playing with Enhanced with Shamans. I feel like it's such a specialist class that every single one I play with, I feel like they're insane. I feel like they're the best players ever. So I got a lot of respect for my big homie Enhancement Shamans out there. Now, I think the S tier is 100% correct. I wouldn't touch that at all. If I play with a Demon Hunter or against Demon Hunter, I feel like, they have the ability to win the game, and they're also scary from the opposing side. Arms Warrior, correct. Feral Druid, Windwalker, Ret Pally. All of those classes are undoubtedly S tier in my opinion. Over on the left-hand side of this tier list, it says the Wild Card's Fury Warrior. I think the wild card is Ret Paladin. Ret Paladin is one of the classes that I think I get very frustrated when I play with them. I think they have one of the hardest jobs in Solo Shuffle because either they are individually clicking or mousing over every single one of their teammates when they want to use a freedom, when they want to use a sack, when they want to use a lay, when they want to use a bop, if they need to spell a poison. And I'm probably even forgetting some of the other things, but they have so many party 1-2 macros. I feel like half the time I play with a Ret, the game's ending with no sack, with no sank, with no bops, with no lay on hands for their teammates. They kind of generally do a pretty good job keeping themselves alive, but it doesn't feel like they are able to reciprocate that to their partners. So I feel like Ret Paladins are the complete wild card. I think sometimes you can have a Ret who is insane, and they have all of that stuff locked down. You're getting sanks, you're getting lays, you're getting bops. They're even sacked, Blessing and Sacrifice, 1 minute CD, 30% damage reduction. And then sometimes you get a Ret who just kind of feels like a huge liability. So those are kind of one of the classes to look out for in your shuffles. They have a lot of responsibility on their shoulders, almost as much as a healer. And I think a lot of people that play DPS just kind of want to zug, turn their brain off. In the A tier, the Sin, the Sub, the Survival, and the Fury, quite frankly, I don't see a lot of Sub Rogue. I think the spec definitely has the potential, but I feel like it's fallen off pretty hard. I think if you were being nitpicky here, you could potentially put that down lower, but it really can just kind of set up kills. As long as people don't mess with their stun DRs, I think that's maybe why you don't see too many Sub Rogues. If people kind of mess with those stun DRs, then Sub feels pretty awkward. They can't really set those kills up on their own. But yeah, Survival's kind of come out of the woodworks a little bit. It's not too shabby. Fury has obviously been nerfed. It's not as good as Arms, but it's definitely still up there. And the only thing I would really change with this list is I actually think Unholy DK and Frost DK can be bumped up one tier. They both got pretty significant buffs this week. Unholy DK is playing the Magus build. It basically got double the damage. It was nerfed by 50%. So that's one of their top damaging abilities. And then DK's also got Frost Strike and Obliterate buffed, which is their top damaging abilities. And their abilities are actually doing so much damage now where they're opting to not play that Remorseless Winter talent that kind of keeps them stuck in place so they could be a little bit more flexible throughout the game and have a lower CD on Pillar. But the Death Strike buff as well kind of allows them to self-sustain a little bit. I don't think that buff is as good in Solo Shuffle as it is in 3v3 because obviously dampening ramps up pretty quickly, but it does give them a little bit of something. So I don't mind playing with Death Knights. I don't feel like they are a big liability on my team anymore. As well as I definitely think they're pretty scary on the opposing side. They kind of have like those shorter CDs that don't line up super well with healer CDs. Unholy has the minute and a half Unholy Assault, and now Frosty K's. Either they could play the 45-second pillar or the 1-minute pillar, and they could still be pretty scary. And I also think Frosty K is a little bit like of a noob slayer spec, where if they do play the Remorseless Winter and your teammates don't know how to get out of it, or they're not very good at evading some of those goes, I think it's easily in the A tier. So moving on to the S tier ranged, BM, Marksman, Dev, Frost Mage, Ellie Shaman, Arcane Mage, all in S. And then in A tier, we have Shadow Priest, Boomkin, UA, Demo, Destro, Fire Mage, which was recently bumped up to the A tier. And then it's on its own tier, all on its lonesome, the B tier, we have Aug Evoker. So I think most of this I would also agree with. And I will also definitely agree with the Fire Mage getting bumped up to the A tier. I've been playing against them a couple times. Feels like their survivability is pretty good. Feels like their damage is pretty good. Their burst is pretty good. I've had some where I'm like, man, oh, there's a Fire Mage in my lobby. And it turns out like, oh, wow, there's a Fire Mage in my lobby. It definitely does not feel like a liability to have on your team anymore. I would say the only wild card in the A category is Shadow Priest. I feel like sometimes you can really get a Shadow Priest who just completely dominates the lobby. They're super good with the disperses, the life swaps, the mass dispels, the grips. They're really good at like kind of setting up their own crowd control. They could kind of get the Psychic Horror, push in for fears. I feel like I've had lobbies where I would want to consider Shadow Priest S tier right off the bat. But then you have lobbies with Warriors, and they just kind of truck Shadow Priest really hard. I think the only thing I would disagree with this is I actually think Boomkin are terrible. I think Boomkin is equally, if not worse, than Aug Evoker. I think it is the worst caster in the game. It doesn't have good crowd control. It doesn't have good sustained damage. It doesn't have good survivability. And the only thing it really has is like that burst when you have Incarn. But every other class on this list can do that burst with more survivability, with more utility, with more crowd control. And every time I have a Boomkin in my lobby, I feel like they die faster than anything I've ever seen before. So I would personally put Boomkin down in the B category with Aug Evoker. I don't really want to play with them. I also don't really want to play against them because, unfortunately, when they're against me, I feel like they are just permanently precog, cloning my entire team. And then when they're on my team, they're standing in the middle of the map, you know, tanking every single interrupt, just struggling to stay alive. So I don't like playing with Boomkin. And then obviously the S tier, BM Hunters, if they get to that 2-minute mark, the second Stampede's just going to win the round by itself. We have the Marksman Hunter. Every single time they press True Shot Aura, it feels like they're going to one-tap someone or True Shot, and it's super scary. Devastation Evokers, they just do the most damage. They're so insane in like the melee lobbies where everyone's just stacked up. They get spam sleep. It's so frustrating. They get CC on the healer. They peel off the DPS. Frost Mage, the ultimate win condition of the Icy Veins. Tons of control. Slows everyone down. Elemental Shaman, insane damage, insane burst. A little bit weaker when getting trained. They don't have the same mobility as some of the other top classes, but definitely super good overall. Tremor, Grounding, Shear, obviously really great tools. And then Arcane Mage, obviously really good. Every time they get the Surge off, you know it's going to be night time. So the S tier casters, they kind of have it all. They have good defensives, they have good offenses, they have good control. And I think the A tier casters, the reason why they are A tier, 3 out of the 6 being Warlock, is they're a little more susceptible to being trained and being interrupted, and they don't kind of have that X factor where they can get it done themselves. Moving along to the healer tier list, and this is where, I kind of feel like I specialize. I feel like I'm going to have some hot takes here. And I've been doing a lot of solo shuffle this week. So my opinions are definitely going to be based off of the top of the ladder. I'm trying to personally do my own challenge where I get top 10 on every single healer in solo shuffle, which we have accomplished. And then I'm trying to get top 5 on every single healer in solo shuffle, which we're still working on. And then when we do that, I'll go for top 3. And if we get that done, I'll try to go for number 1 on everyone at the same time. It's kind of impossible, but we'll see what we can do. So in the S tier, we have Resto Druid, we have Holy Priest, we have Mistweaver, and we have Holy Paladin. And then in the A tier, right below that, we have Disc, we have Shaman, and we have some Preservation. So I am going to throw out my hot take here. And I think this is going to be probably pretty surprising, and I'm kind of curious what you guys think about this. I think Holy Priest is the worst solo shuffle healer. I think they should not be in S. I think they should be in B. All by themselves, completely alone. I think Shaman are better than them, and I think Shaman are pretty bad. I think Preservation are better than them, and I think Preservation's pretty bad. I feel like Holy Priests do not have the healing. Every single lobby feels like it has a warrior. It feels like you're just perpetually dead. Guardian, you know, it's a pure healing cooldown. You have no damage reduction. Ray of Hope, pure healing cooldown, no damage reduction. It feels really bad, and I think most of the time when I'm playing my Holy Priest and or playing against a Holy Priest, the lobby, like the rounds are so quickly, you don't even get to your second angel, which means, you know, you don't have the gas to get there. Why has this happened? Why have they gone from S tier to, you know, kind of falling behind? Well, most of the other healers have gotten buffed. Priest took, you know, a couple of nerfs. The most recent one was mana, which isn't super relevant in solo shuffle. But I actually think that in the set of healing changes they got, where Palm took like a 25% nerf or whatever it was, that week specifically, I noticed that Holy Priest just kind of felt not great. I pushed to rank 1 solo shuffle. It was super difficult. And then after that, I haven't queued in probably 2 months or so, and I'm rank 4, which means either people can't pass me, or not many people can pass me, or people are not trying. So either way, I think overall it feels really weak. Whenever I see a Holy Priest on the other side of the lobby, I feel like I have a pretty good time. So the Mistweaver and the Holy Pally have been bumped up to S tier. I absolutely agree. Resto Druid is super solid, has great control, great healing, definitely deserves to be in the S tier. Mistweaver, playing what seems to be more common now is like that kick weaving hybrid build. I recently played it myself. It kind of took some adjusting, and that build is insane. You can do a absurd amount of damage with that build. You still have really good snap crowd control. You can push in, you go for the in cap, you go for the sleep, you go for the leg sweep. On top of the amount of burst you can do, it is crazy. You can, if there's not a really CC heavy lobby, you absolutely bully the lobby. You can solo people almost. 2 million kick into a 2 million crackle into a 2 million kick. It is really, really devastating. So it kind of depends. I think that Mistweaver might actually be the best healer. And then Holy Paladin, the Lightsmith Holy Paladin build has been getting super popular. They took a couple of buffs this week. They didn't matter too much. I think the biggest one was their end capstone in Lightsmith. I kind of forget what the name was. It got a 15% buff, and it's only active when he wings. It didn't matter that much, but it was a buff nonetheless. But Holy Paladins just, they feel really good in Shuffle. So the crazy thing about Holy Paladin is when someone has Beacon and you have Devotion Aura up, and the main, you know, your 2 DPS generally have Beacon the whole game, they are passively taking 8% less damage. That is by far the highest default damage reduction in the game. Earth Shield's 5, Atonement is 2, Preservation has none, Druid has none, Holy Priest has none, Mistweaver has 6% if they're channeling a Soothing Mist on you, if they're spec'd into it. So 8% is the highest, and then you have Lay on Hands not affected by dampening. You have Blessing of Protection, which is essentially a cooldown that's not affected by dampening, as some of the other healers have. And then you can get really good crowd control. You have the Hodge, you have the Rep, you can do huge judgments. The Tempered in Battle is also not affected by dampening because it's HP redistribution. It's not actually considered a heal. So Holy Pallies are insane. Resto Druid, Mistweaver, Holy Pally, 100% the top 3 healers. If you're facing those in Solo Shuffle, you know it's going to be a difficult matchup. In the A tier, I personally would kind of have Disc Priest on its own. I think Disc Priest has been one of the easier healers for me to play specifically because, once again, you have damage, you have damage reduction. Overall, it feels like a pretty good healer. You're probably not going to beat Druids, Mistweavers, or Paladins, but you can probably go ahead and bully Shamans, Holy Priests, and Preservation pretty easily. In the B tier, under Disc Priest, I would have Shaman and Prez by themselves. I don't think Shaman and Prez are specifically that great. I personally have been playing Totemic on my Shaman, and I've been playing a weird storm conduit build where I'm trying to like cast lightning bolts and tank interrupts, and I have gotten to rank 1 shuffle with that, but overall it's so much more work. It doesn't have, you know, it doesn't really have anything too great. Preservation, even though they got a ton of buffs this week, this class feels like a nightmare you cannot wake up from. Anytime you fight a class that has Purge, say goodbye to your Shroud. Anytime you fight classes that have a lot of crowd control, say goodbye to your teammates' health bars. It feels like you are stuck in a perpetual state of being dead. You can't avoid crowd control. I actually think Shaman has felt better than Preservation from my point of view on in Solo Shuffle. And then last but not least, Holy Priest. Holy Priest just, in my opinion, feels like the worst. So I feel like that is my hot take on the healer tier list. Yeah, I'm curious what you guys think about that. Maybe it's a little bit different at different ratings, but I've been playing a lot of Solo Shuffle this week, so I'm kind of basing my opinions off of, you know, what I've seen firsthand. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this react to the tier list. Thank you for Skill Capped. Make sure you guys check out the website, check out the add-on, and feel free to leave any comments if you guys are interested in seeing me in more videos, what it is that you guys would want to see, and if you agree or disagree with me on some of the suggestions I had in the tier list where I was ranking them and whatnot. So thank you guys very much for watching, and enjoy your day or evening.